Hello everyone, my name is Mr. Amoyavi and I am one of your grade 12 advanced maths teachers. In our last lesson we answered two trigonometric questions. Now in this lesson we'll carry on or we'll continue on with two more questions on trigonometry. And first up we're going to look at another multiple choice question. And the question reads, given the trigonometric function y equals 2 sine 3x minus 1. And here it says find a period. We are asked to find a period, and this is one of the keywords that you have learned in trigonometric function. And we have the alternatives A, B, C, and D. All right, so in order to answer these questions, you see that these angles, they are actually angles given in radians, and they are not given in degrees. But if you can remember and recall the idea or the definition for period, we are going to recall the general formula of a trig function, especially the sine function. We will have y equals a sine bx plus c. And for each of these constants, a, b, and c, we give some certain names. So for this one, the coefficient of the sine here, we will say this a represents the amplitude. So a is actually your amplitude of the function or the trig function, amplitude. All right, to find a period which is related to this constant number b, or b, we will say 2 pi divided by this b here will give us the period of the function. All right. Now we go on to C. C is actually the vertical shift. Right, you may relate this function to the idea of sketching the function and then try to work out the period and amplitude, but in this case, it's a multiple choice question, so the important thing that you can recall, the knowledge that you have gained is this formula, the general formula that we can recall to write it out to differentiate between the amplitude. This A stands for the amplitude, and 2 pi divided by this B, which is the coefficient of x, will give you the period. And C is the vertical shift. So given this formula, or this expression for the period, now our period therefore will be, okay, we can say the period will be equal to 2 pi divided by b. In this case, in this question here, it is 3. The value for b is 3. So therefore, the period is equal to 2 pi on 3. So our correct answer is 2 pi on 3 is here. All right, so what we have done in this question is by the help of this formula, if you can recall this formula, you know A, the coefficient in front of the sine symbol, is the amplitude, B is related to the period, and C is actually the vertical shift. So if you are going to substitute these 3, which is the value for B, into this one, then we can work out the period as we have done. All right, so thank you. We're now going to look at the short answer question, but before we do that, we have to take what is on the board. Welcome back. We are now going to look at answering a short question on trigonometry, which will be our last. Here, as you can see, we have a question that reads, find the length BE in the solid below, and you are required to write your answer in simplest set form. Right, as you can see, we have a solid here, which is a rectangular prism, but we can see triangles that can be constructed within the shape here. And so this question is a trigonometry question. Now, in order to find this length BE, we have to construct some triangles here. So the first triangle that we can see is, in order to find this length, we have to find this length here, which is BD. All right? And so when we constructed this line, we can see that we have formed a triangle, which is at the base of the solid. All right? So as you have length, the vertical line and the plane will form always a right angle. Or you can also, instead of the vertical line, we can see this length and this length here will always be at right angles. All right, so this triangle BDC is a right triangle. And so we're going to apply either the Pythagoras theorem or the trig ratios, but as you can see, we don't have the internal angles here. So the only thing that we are left with, the only concept that we will apply is the Pythagoras theorem. So if this length is 16 here, the 16 centimeters or 16 units, and if this is 10, then this will be also 10 units. All right, so as you can see, this length here, BD, we can calculate using Pythagoras theorem. Length BD is the longest side or the hypotenuse. So we will say BD squared is equal to 16 squared plus 10 squared. All right, so 16 squared is 256 plus 100, 10 squared is 100. All right, so adding these two, we get, again, don't forget this is BD squared. So BD squared is equal to 100 plus 256 gives us 356. Right, this is BD squared, and therefore, if you take the square root, square root on both sides, BD will be equal to square root of 356, okay, which is this length here. So we say this length here is square root of 356 units. Now, as you can see, when we constructed this line here, we have also formed another triangle, which is also a right triangle. So this angle here is also a right triangle. Taking this length here, which is DE, which is a vertical line, it forms a right angle with the plane here. So this angle here is 90 degrees, and also the triangle BED is also a right triangle. So actually what we are required to find is the longest side of this triangle. So we can also use Pythagoras theorem. All right, so we say BE squared will be equal to this side squared, which is BD squared plus DE squared. DE squared. We know this length here, BD, is the one that we have calculated. That will be square root of 356. So we square that plus DE. If this is 12 centimeters or 12 units, then this is also 12. Right, so we say 12 squared. Right, so this is BE squared. BE squared is equal to, right, when you square this square root, this symbol here cancels out with the exponent. So you're left with 356 plus 100, 12 squared is 144. Right, so when you add this up, you will end up with 500. So BE squared is equal to 500. So when you take the square root, BE now is equal to square root of 500. But in simplest terms, if you square root of 500 is same as square root of 5 times square root of 100. So square root of 100 is 10. So we say 10 square root of 5 is the simplest in set form. Right, so this brings us to the end of our calculation. So as you can see, if we are given a solid like this, if you see any triangle in there, we can apply the ideas that we have learned in trigonometry, either Pythagoras theorem or the trig ratio. All right, so this brings us to the end of our episodes on trigonometry. In our next lesson, we are going to talk about calculus, which is one of the important topics. And as our survey have shown, a lot of students face problems answering calculus questions. So we'll be looking at some of those questions to help you prepare for the national exams. All right, thank you. See you in the next episode or lesson.